Representative Hefner, first want to thank you for trying to work with me from the beginning of this process to try to improve the bill, and I'm disappointed that the Senate removed that key amendment. So I want to ask you some questions about the current version of the bill that we have before the body. First, Representative Hefner, do you think a chaplain can replace a school counselor?
I trust our school districts to make that determination. Representative Talarico, the bill is clear that they can either come in and work along with the counselors or in place of, or whatever the school best sees fit to serve their students and teachers.
Let me ask it another way. Do you think a chaplain has the same qualifications as a school counselor?
I don't think their qualifications all line up, but I do think they both have important qualifications that contribute to helping our kids and teachers in our schools.
So to be a school counselor in Texas, you have to have a master's degree. Does your bill require chaplains to have a master's degree?
No.
To be a school counselor in Texas, you have to teach in a classroom for 2 years. Does your bill require a chaplain to teach in a classroom for 2 years?
No, sir.
Does your bill specify any qualifications for chaplains serving in our schools?
I don't think there's any specific qualifications. I trust our school districts to spell out what qualifications they would require and make those decisions.
Does your bill define what a chaplain is?
I believe it does. Does the bill? I'm looking at it. I mean, it's chaplains are defined in many areas of our government. They serve in our armed forces. They serve in TDCJ, Health and Human Services. There's a lot of places that they serve, and they have specific training as to not force religion on people, but to be good listeners, good support people. And
I'm glad, Representative Hefner, you brought that up. Is it correct that the Senate stripped our House amendment requiring that any chaplains in our schools come from an organization endorsed by the Department of Defense, the TDCJ, or the Federal Bureau of Prisons?
It is accurate to say that they stripped that amendment,
so
which
now,
we accepted, and then you voted against the bill after we accepted your amendment.
So now anyone could call themselves a chaplain and provide these services in our schools?
Do what now?
So now that amendment has been stripped, anyone could call themselves a chaplain and provide these services in our schools?
I mean, I'm not advised on how that would be defined. What I will reiterate time and time again is I have complete and total faith in our schools to make the decision to put the regulations they see fit in place to qualify these individuals.
Representative Hefner, are you aware that there are internet services that will ordain a chaplain with just 40 hours of online training?
I'm not advised.
So under your bill, will we allow these internet-ordained chaplains in our schools to interact with our kids?
Under our bill, we allow the school district to make those determinations at the local level.
I offered an amendment to the original bill to require these school chaplains to respect the free exercise of religion, and you refused to accept that amendment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I offered an amendment to prevent chaplains from imposing their beliefs on students, and you refused to accept that amendment. Is that correct?
I refuse to accept it because I trust the school district to put the guidelines in place that they see reasonable and fit. And I also understand that chaplains do not force a religion on people. They're specifically trained not to do that.
And I offered an amendment to require chaplains to respect the diversity of a school community, and you refused to accept that amendment. Is that correct?
Because they are already trained to do such things.
Trained by whom? Sorry, Representative.
Trained by the organizations that certify them as chaplains or
does that include
recognize them as chaplains.
Does that include these internet
I'm not advised of the details on that.
Okay, so we may be allowing chaplains who are not trained to do these things under the current language of the bill.
If the local school district choose to do so, they can make those decisions themselves.
I offered an amendment to require parental consent before children can meet with a chaplain, and you refused to accept that amendment. Is that correct?
I don't recall all the details of that day.
Okay.
It's been a few days.
So
late nights.
we offered an amendment that you did accept requiring background checks. And so I'm trying to figure out what kind of requirements we provide in this bill and which ones we don't.
Can you say that one more time?
So I offered an amendment to the bill requiring background checks, and you didn't accept that amendment. You said you trusted school districts to do it, but then you ended up taking a later amendment to put this requirement in the bill, and it's still in the version we have today. So I'm trying to figure out what we're requiring districts to do and what we're not requiring districts to do, and how we're deciding between different requirements.
I think these amendments that we took, which were, the amendments you're talking about too, were either accepted by this House or rejected by the majority of this House. And those were things that I felt would already be done by responsible school districts. I don't think we have a single school district in the state that would not require a background check or to make sure that these people aren't sex offenders. I mean, we got to apply some common sense every now and then.
So Representative Hefner, I'm concerned that the amendment stripped by the Senate will now open up this bill to certain vendors. We've discussed the National School Chaplain Association. Do you remember that conversation?
I do not remember. I don't recall.
The National School Chaplain Association testified in favor of the bill both in the House and the Senate. Have they helped you with this bill at all?
I don't recall. I had input from a lot of different people.
Are you aware that the stated purpose of this organization is to, quote, enhance God's presence by infiltrating the system and supporting Christians functioning and operating inside the school system?
I'm not advised.
Do you think we should encourage the infiltration of our public schools?
You want to know what I really think, Mr. Talarico? I think it's preposterous that members in here will defend the acts of certain inappropriate drag shows in our schools and inappropriate material in our libraries, and then
Mr. Hefner, confine your
the
comments.
audacity to say that this is a problem.
I don't know what drag shows have to do with this bill, but I want to ask you about this organization, the National School Chaplain Association. Do you know Rocky Malloy? He's their CEO, testified in favor of the bill in the House and the Senate.
I've met Rocky.
So you have met with Rocky Malloy?
I've met him before.
Has he worked on this bill at all?
They provided some input.
So are you aware that Rocky Malloy has said chaplains are not professional counselors, children don't need professional counseling, they just need to be heard?
I'm not familiar with that.
He said he has a phone app that gives instructions on how to pray with students who are suicidal. Do you believe that the answer to kids who are suicidal is for them to pray and not get professional mental health
That has nothing to
counseling?
do with this bill.
Rocky Malloy has stated he wants chaplains going into teachers' classrooms and reviewing every single book available to students. Do you, as the bill author, want chaplains censoring or banning books
No.
in libraries or classrooms? No. Are you familiar that Rocky Malloy describes himself as a former drug smuggling pirate saved by divine intervention?
I'm not aware.
And he's admitted to being convicted of international drug trafficking?
I'm not advised.
The gentleman's time has expired.